Hey, how's everybody doing? I thought I'd do another video, this time while I'm driving. See how it works. Okay, so the topic of today's Facebook rants is copyright infringement. IP theft is something that we have been talking about for, God knows how long. Years and years. So, just a couple pointers, and these are off the top of my head. I'm not reading something, but in my years of experience with IP theft, intellectual property, there's a lot of myths that people go by. I think they're pretty dumb just because you read a Facebook post telling you that something's okay and you go ahead and you base a business on it. Sounds like a pretty stupid thing to me. I've done some dumb things before, but nothing like that. I would never go by that. I do my own research. Changing something by 10% of an image does not make it yours to a certain degree. You can take an image, you can blur it out, you can do whatever, but if anything in that image still shows through and it can be mistaken that your product is the other product, or creates any market confusion whatsoever, doesn't matter what it is. I don't know, it's not your opinion as to what the market confusion is. They don't have to prove that. All they have to prove is somebody look at it and say, oh yeah, I know what that is, that's Tim Hortons, or I know what that is, that's Skittles. That's all they need. That is the only thing that they need, and you are screwed. So I talked to a guy about this years ago. Owners of, I don't know if it's still around, Legends Vape, whatever, Labs or whatever it was, where they used superheroes from Marvel, DC, every universe you could think of, and they made a profile based on it with a logo that they created with, say, Captain America on it or whatever. If they're not around, good, because they would get crushed. Now, the majority of these companies, big companies, and I've dealt with a few before, not in my own, not from anything that I've done, but I was in printing before this, and when they approach you, they usually say, stop doing it. They'll give you a cease and desist. It may be a little bit scary in the letter, saying how much they can fine you, blah, 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 but it just pretty much says, stop doing it. And most people would just stop doing it. But some people take that really lightly, and they believe their 10% rule should count. Might. Who cares? These guys are massive. They have money. They have legal departments. Do you have a legal department? Do you have the money to fight somebody? Even if they're wrong, if they have a reason to come after you, you should feel a little bit. That's my opinion, because they can keep you in court in litigation until you die, and you will die broke. That's just my opinion, but I think it's one shared by a lot of people out there. I think at this point in the game, for as long as we've been doing this, anybody that would really question or really say, oh, I'm going to do this and see what happens, or I'm going to create this logo and I'll wait for that letter saying cease and desist. I'll make some money in the meantime. So just so you know, most laws, American, Canadian, most international, is if you operated and you sold product or made a profit off of an image or a logo or anything, the company that owns that image can come after you for the proceeds of using that image, which means the money you've made off of juice for that specific SKU or whatever, or just your company logo, they can come after you for that profit. And I don't know how they prove it, but again, another one of those things. They'd have you in court forever, and you would be screwed. Which leads me to pretty much my final thought is, I don't know if it's happened yet. I know a few people have paid fines, $1,000 to some of these companies or the marketing firms that represent them or whatever. But it's going to come to a head. It's probably, my guess is it's probably going to be one of the bigger companies. Something that would gain some publicity, but somebody's going to be made an example of. I know that. Not that I know that, but I'm pretty sure that's the direction that this game is headed. Is you can do it so many times, and then they'll come at you. And I know Charlie said on one of these threads that, oh, they don't want to look like the bad guys, it's bad press. If you look at it from an outsider's perspective, you're the bad guy. You're the person who stole somebody else's intellectual property and then used it for profit. They will look like somebody who's trying to protect their intellectual property. So I don't buy that bullshit of oh, they don't want publicity, they don't want this to look bad. They will crush somebody. They will absolutely crush somebody and make it public enough that everybody out there that thinks about doing it or is doing it will either back off or never think about doing it again. And we've talked about this shit for years, and it came to a point where people were deleting these threads once they popped up on the Facebook groups because nobody wanted to talk about it anymore because we beat it to death. But it's kind of rising its ugly head again. People are still doing it. People do it all the time. I call them out every time I see it and I notice it. Maybe subtly, maybe bluntly, but I'll call it out every time I see it just because I think it's so stupid. That's it. That's all I got. But I just wanted to kind of say that in video format. Sometimes people don't read my long rants on Facebook. I figured this might be a good way to reach some of those juice makers or stores that think that they're not going to be, they're not going to be harmed by this. They may not, but are you willing to take that chance?